Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live?
I think a lot of Gen Z people can really relate to this. I mean, especially me. I'm barely 20 right now, and I remember even a couple years ago, I was looking into the average price of an apartment, around my area, right? And at the time, actually, I was working at Burlington. I think I was making about $10 an hour. I was working part time. It was a seasonal job, right? Instead of them giving me like the full 4 hours, I think I only worked like 3 hours 45 minutes. So when I came back home with a fat $100 check, I thought I was rolling in money, right? And the fact that the federal minimum wage, I believe in Texas, is still 7.25. I'll pull it up if I'm wrong. Is absolutely ridiculous. And for reference, right? I believe me and my girlfriend, gross income. This isn't net, right? Gross income. I believe we pull in just a little under 100,000 a year, because I'm very fortunate in the job that I have right now, right? And I'm looking around at apartments, and the most I can afford is 1,500 a month. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to live below my means. I'm looking at an apartment for like 1,100, but that still goes to show. Imagine if I was working alone. That would be absolutely terrible. I don't think I could be able to live comfortably at all on my own.
And I do not want to hear the pull yourself up from your bootstraps, work 90 hours a week. That's not the goal, guys. That's not. That should not be our standard.
I don't think anybody would disagree with what he just said. I mean, me personally, I work 50-hour weeks. I live in Texas, but I drive all the way up to Oklahoma for work. However, at the end of the day, I just don't agree with people, sitting down and complaining all the time. I mean, there's a difference, I mean, right now I'm talking to you guys saying how this is bullshit, right? But see, what I'm not going to do is just say that and then not do anything.
I am so fucking tired of people being complacent with this uniparty, both of them fucking us over. When my parents were my age, they both made less than half of what I make, and they lived alone. I cannot afford to live anywhere alone. A 1-bedroom apartment, $1,800. 2-bedroom apartment, $2,200. Who the fuck can afford that?
And all you would really have to do to prove he's right is check Zillow yourself. Here we are in the DFW area, and look, the very first one is 1469 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. We got another one for 1485. Rent, especially for affordability, we got a one bedroom, 1-bath for 1,015. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot better, especially in comparison to 1,585 for a studio, right? You have 900, but it's in Dallas. I wouldn't really move to Dallas. Arlington's all right. Grand Prairie, that's all right, I guess. But like, a good area, right? Let's go up here to maybe Plano and Allen, around this area, maybe even a little bit of McKinney. We have 1720. I've actually seen these a couple of times. I've drove past these. Let's see the size that you get for 1720. You get a 1-bed, 1-bath, 701 square feet, just 701. And this is what you get. I mean, you get a nice little patio, don't get me wrong, but like 1720 for a 1-bed, 1-bath. So let's say you find a really good deal, right? Like 1107 for this 1-bedroom, 1-bath, or 1101, same thing, 1-bed, 1-bath, right? You think that's a pretty good idea, right? You'll find that most of the time, by the time your lease expires, that you'll end up getting upcharged more. I have been in my apartment complex since I've moved here several years ago. At the time, $1,400 for a 2-bedroom was fair. This price isn't luxury by any means, but it's nice enough. For the past few years, my lease renewals have been fair, but this year is ridiculous. So let's say, you get a 1-year lease, right? Thinking that you're safe, it's a pretty long deal. I mean, it's 1 year. By year 2, you saw that it went up by 100, which isn't too bad, right? But then it went up by another 120. And then again, all the way up to 1890.
It is embarrassing to come out and say that it is a struggle to survive right now, but I know so many people are struggling. And do not get me started on what my grandparents were doing. They $3,000 house. And yes, I understand inflation and all of the bullshit that they have been pulling with the Fed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was a senior in high school, I was looking at pricings of houses, and I remember, seeing 300,000 for a really nice house, like in a really expensive part, of my city. I used to live in Irving, right? And now it seems like every single like house starts at 300,000. If we look at houses around the area, we see 3 million, what I mean, but that's in Highland Park. We see 260,000, which seems pretty good actually. It's in Dallas, but you scroll down and like you see 2022 around about the same, right? But 2020, 179. A house that at some point was only worth like about 70K is now worth 260K. We go north of Dallas up to the suburbs, and we still see well over 500,000. And for a house like this, you'd have to spend $4,446 a month. Granted, that's just with a down payment of 10,000. And if you're spending this much on a house, you're gonna want more than just 10,000 on a down payment. But everything is so just unattainable. I mean, this looks like a $300,000 house right here. Something like this would actually be a really good deal, but this is all the way up in Princeton. If you're in Princeton, right about here, you're quite a little bit from everything. This house that's in Euless, that's 320,000, is really only worth about 123,000, $118,000. If you wanted to be able to afford the actual payments, right, at like 30% your actual monthly income, we see that at 30%, you'd have to make $8,560 a month, which is $102,720 a year annually, and that is net pay. Turns out to be $2,140 a week. So to be able to afford this $320,000 house, you would have to make $500,000 annually, and that is salary. So you can make the net pay. Granted, this is just at 30%. You know what I mean? You could always bump it up to 50%, and that would be better. But still, that is just outrageous prices. But yeah, no, man, America's expensive.